Hi guys, it's Mina and welcome back to the Peppy podcast. Welcome. Today we have Dr. Mina with us from the US.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
We're really excited to speak to you today. So, Dr. Mina, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a board certified dermatologist. I've been practicing dermatology for about 20 years now.
Mhm.
And let's see, I love what I do. I love taking care of patients. I love helping people feel good in their skin. And then in 2020, I don't know if you guys remember, but a little thing called a pandemic happened. And I also turned 40. So, I had a lot of big milestones. And I remember sitting at home not knowing what was going on. I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I wasn't able to actually take care of patients in my clinic. And I thought, oh my gosh, like what can I do? How can I still take care of patients and help provide good dermatology information for people if I can't see them one on one? And I kind of thought, let me create a podcast because I'm enjoying listening to podcasts. I like to listen to them. And I know that there's a shortage, at least here in the US, and I think really worldwide, for dermatologists and for people who want to know how to take care of their skin. There's definitely not a shortage of people who are willing to talk about skin, but there seems to be a shortage of people who actually should be talking about skin. And I think also just turning 40, really being like solidly middle age, noticing changes in my skin and a lot of my friends noticing stuff, I thought, okay, what I want to help give people really good skin information, and it's been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a great journey, and you're doing that even now after the pandemic. So, that's great that that's continued.
It
And
really is just so much fun. Like, I just had a full day of clinic, which, is exhausting because I'm always on my feet and everything. But then I knew I had this podcast, and really sitting down talking to you and your audience is really just fun for me. So it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like work.
We're really happy to speak to you too. So my first question for you is break down what an ideal skincare routine looks like for you as a dermatologist.
Yeah, so I think universally dermatologists, we have very simple routines. I think that's one thing people are very surprised about. They think because we have maybe access, or we get products, or we know these companies, that we must have this like really complicated or expensive skincare routine. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
just knocked my mic over. But that's actually not the case at all. Now, I know some people just really love skincare and they love putting things on their skin and the feel of it. And it's sort of this whole like beauty ritual that they enjoy doing. I personally am not one of those people, but I want amazing skin. So I'm like, how do I get amazing skin with really as little time and effort as possible, right? So I would say for my true minimalist girlies out there, this is my mom. Like, she is very she does not want a complicated routine. A gentle cleanser, sunscreen, and moisturizer. And it really can be that simple. It does not have to be complicated. If you do that, and you do it consistently, you will be ahead of so many people, and you will age well. Really, that sunscreen protecting from UV damage is so important. No matter what color skin you have, too. I think people think, oh, well, I don't have light skin. I don't burn. I'm okay. But really, that's universal for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to be a little extra, which I'm a little extra, I do, especially now that I'm in my 40s, I do add some extras in there. So I would say a must have would be some sort of retinol or retinoid. And I think people are pretty familiar with that term now. To me, second to sunscreen, this is such a powerful ingredient that I
Mm-hmm.
think it really trumps like all the others. And it's so important to try to find one that you can tolerate, that works well with you. But I would say doing a retinol or retinoid is a must, if you want to be a little bit extra with your skincare. And then the what would that be? Is that my fifth now? cleanser, sunscreen, moisturizer. Right? Yeah, my fifth would be some sort of antioxidant, and this works
Mm.
really well with your with sunscreen. It's not a replacement. Your antioxidant serum could be a vitamin C serum. I think a lot of people are
Mhm.
familiar with that. But now companies are making, even better. Like it's a combination of lots of different antioxidants,
Mhm.
or things like exosomes or peptides, growth factors, things like that. A lot of times
Mhm.
also incorporate antioxidants, or they can function in dual ways. So that would be sort of my, top five, if you want to be a little bit extra. And really that's it. Like that is what I do. You really don't need these other steps unless you are trying to treat something specifically. Like maybe
Mhm.
you have melasma, or maybe you have acne or hyperpigmentation. And
Mhm.
if that's the case, then
Mhm.
you are going to want to tweak your ingredients and your skincare products a little bit to address those concerns.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So I had been diagnosed with melasma, I think 4 5 years ago, and that's when I started using retinol. And then I liked the results so much that I got over the counter retinol serum, and I've been using it, and I swear by it. And I've been
Right.
trying to get people to use it as well because I found the results so good. But I wanted you to share with our audience exactly how retinol really works and how it causes the skin to shed faster and how that changes everything.
Yeah, exactly. I think the tricky thing with retinoids is that they can cause irritation,
Mm-hmm.
and they build collagen. I mean, it's super powerful collagen booster, but collagen takes time. It's not overnight. And I'll tell people, like, it took me a year of using it consistently as a dermatology resident before I looked in the mirror and was like, "Oh, I get it. Now I see what people are talking about." It just helps that light reflection, and but it takes a while. So I think most people stop when they get a little bit of the irritation, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't for me. It doesn't work." But it we have so much data showing how vital this is. Our cells have retinoic acid receptors, and so
Mm-hmm.
the over the counter retinol, with like a O next to the L, retinol, that has to be converted from retinol to retinal, then to the active form, retinoic acid, versus
Mm-hmm.
the prescription strength is already it's already in the active form, so it doesn't have to be converted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more powerful, but it also can have more side effects, like
Mm-hmm.
dryness and things like that. And I usually will tell people to think of the dryness, at least this is how I think of it, is I like to treat to the point of just a teeny tiny bit of irritation or flaking, because
Mm-hmm.
that is sort of what I'm wanting it to do. I'm wanting it to open up my pores, unclog my pores, which is how it helps with acne. It helps increase cell turnover. So our cells are already going through this rotation of sloughing off every 3 to 4 weeks. As we get older, it slows down, and the retinoid will increase that, speed that up. So I almost tell people, like, at least for me personally, the goal is just a teeny tiny bit of irritation, because then I know I'm sort of like at the maximum. But there are
Mm-hmm.
definitely ways to help mitigate that. And I also say it's like working out, right? Like you go to the gym, you're going to have at least I will, I'm going to have a really hard time lifting 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, and doing a lot of reps if I haven't been to the gym in a really long time, right? Like, or you take 2 weeks off on vacation. But you don't quit, right? You don't just say, "Oh, this is not for me. I'm not gonna ever work out. It's hard," right? You say, "Okay, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna be motivated. I'm gonna work on my form, do it the right way, eat the right way," and then you build up to it, right? You build up
Mm-hmm.
to that 10 pound weight, that 20 pound weight, that extra rep. So I liken it to going to the gym, where it does take some getting used to. It's not always fun in the beginning, but the
Mm-hmm.
results are so worth it, just like going to the gym.
I agree 100%. And do you have any tips for how to sort of cope with the retinol purge, the dryness, flakiness, the almost like the redness and irritation?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, this is not something you want to go guns blazing, right? Like, you want to start slowly. And remember, like, we're playing the long game here, right? And the earlier you can start it, the better, right? If you can start it in your late 20s, early 30s, and really be consistent with it, your skin at 50, 60 is really going to reflect that. So, we're playing the long game. This is not this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So start low and start slowly, right? You don't need a ton. If you have very sensitive skin, maybe start with an over the counter product.
Mhm,
Use it at night. Don't I should ask you about your tips, right? Use it at night. Um, Wash your face and then let it dry. So normally, when you've heard dermatologists say put moisturizer on wet skin because it absorbs better. But with retinol and retinoid, I actually want the skin a little dry because I don't want it to absorb too much because that
mhm,
can cause irritation. So let your skin dry. And then I use an exosome serum, which is my antioxidant serum, and then I put it on. But you can just put it on straight. And
mhm,
then plus minus follow up with a moisturizer. And I don't recommend doing it every night. I tell
mhm,
people a tiny little, one of those little frozen peas in the frozen, the grocery store, like just a tiny little dab for your
yeah,
whole face. Yep.
mhm,
And then I wish I had started doing my chest and neck sooner, but you can also include your neck and chest. And just a tiny bit. I think people think they have to apply it like a moisturizer, but it's
mm,
not. Like you just put a little bit on. And then now in my 40s, I do follow up with a moisturizer afterwards. But when I was like your age, my skin was pretty oily and I could handle doing it without a moisturizer. So there's a little
mm,
bit of like, kind of knowing your skin. Do you tend to be oily? Do you tend to be dry? And then do that maybe 3 times a week if you can for a
mm,
while. If it's summer and it's hot where you live, or really if it's just hot or humid where you live, you might be able to
mhm,
build up a little bit faster. If it's wintertime in Scotland, you might be like sticking with 3 days for the whole winter, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
you'll know. I feel like your body will tell you. Your skin, if it's super dry and flaky in the morning, then add an extra moisturizer, and then maybe skip that area the next time you do a treatment. So there is a little
mhm,
bit of like playing around with it, but if you in general start low concentration, low strength, um, don't do it just a few nights a week and then incorporate a moisturizer with it, then usually you can get through it and your body can get used to it. And then you can build up from that.
And I've heard that you shouldn't use retinol with vitamin C at the same time. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I have heard that too, but then I've also seen products that have them formulated together. And like I said,
Mhm,
I also use my antioxidant serum right
mhm,
before. So I
mhm,
think more importantly is to just use. Typically, I think of my vitamin C serum as more of like a morning serum. I don't know why I think of it with sunscreen in my head. It goes with sunscreen. You just
mhm,
don't want to use your retinol or retinoid in the morning. So that's
mhm,
really the more important thing. So
mhm,
you certainly could put your vitamin C serum on and then put your retinol, but make sure that's in the evening.
mhm. And can you tell our guests a little bit about the long-term results of retinol if you
Oh my
used it
gosh.
correctly?
Yeah, if you just did that and sun protected and didn't
Mhm,
tan, didn't go to tanning beds and wore sunscreen,
mhm,
your skin will look phenomenal. I mean, I take care of all ages. I do a lot of skin cancer surgery. And I was just actually doing a skin check on a lady today, and her stomach was like pristine. So it like that
mhm,
just goes to show the power of simply just sun protection, right? But if you
mhm,
also pair it with the retinoid, you're going to have like, chef's kiss skin when you're older. And the nice thing is too, you can sort of stave off maybe doing some more expensive procedures and things like that.
mhm,
And you don't have to kind of like get rid of a ton of sun damage and sort of start from like a already sort of set back. So I think it's a great way of just keeping your skin healthy, built keeping your collagen up. keeping your pigmentation, your complexion nice and uniform. And it really, if you just did that in sunscreen, I feel like you are like 80, 90% of the way to aging really well.
Mm. Okay. And can you tell us what this exosome serum does?
Yeah, so I don't know. Are you familiar with exosomes at all? I know in the US they're getting
No.
pretty big. So you also like have to take it with a grain of salt, right? Like anytime something becomes popular, then you get a lot of snake oil and fake news and all that. So I just give that
Mhm.
caveat. But if so, most people have probably heard of stem cells. Stem cells are typically the progenitor cell that can form into really anything and everything. And for a long time, people have wanted to study stem cells. How can we grow skin? How can we grow organs? How can we cure these things? And the thought was through stem cells. And stem cells are tricky. They're lots of ethical, lots of things to consider. But what's neat is that exosomes are these little envelopes that come from stem cells, and they carry little messages. And what scientists and researchers are realizing is, well, maybe we don't actually need the stem cell. Really, what we need is that little message inside the exosomes that are carried around. And for a long time, we actually thought exosomes were garbage. We thought they were just junk from the cell. We didn't realize it had the potential to be carrying important information. So exosomes in and of themselves are just little envelopes. So that's why if someone says, use an exosome product, it's like, well, or they say, oh, we have exosomes, it's like, okay, but really it's the message inside that envelope that really matters. The message from a cancer cell is going to be form cancer. The message from a platelet would be more like wound healing and things like that. So you have to know, it's important to know where the exosomes are coming from, what tissue, and what is the message inside of it. But lots of cool stuff coming down the pike. I'm sure you'll start to hear about it. Right now, exosomes, at least here in the US, are available for topical use. So not for
Mhm.
injections at this point, but for topical. And what I like about the skin ones that I'm using, they get rid of these things called zombie cells. So as we go through life, our body is so intelligent and smart. And when cells are bad, or our body knows to kind of shut things down. It's called apoptosis, where we get rid of these bad cells, and so that they don't do bad things. But unfortunately, we also have some cells that are no longer dividing, but they haven't disappeared. They haven't gone away. And they're just kind of hanging around. They're like they're like the Debbie Downer of your friend group, who like just won't leave, but also isn't really contributing. And if anything, is bringing the whole vibe down. And so they call them zombie cells. They're sort of like the living dead. And they can secrete things that are bad for the living cells. And so the thought is, we need to get rid of these senescent cells. We need to kind of clear them out, because they're actually preventing our healthy normal cells from doing what they need to do. And so I use a product called Plated from the Mayo Clinic. They've got a lot of good research and science behind it. So I'm excited. I think this is really, fixing or addressing our skin at a molecular cellular level. This
Mhm.
is where I think everything is going,
Mhm.
where we can really like harness that. And exosomes are a really cool way to do that.
Mhm. And in terms of what you see, how does your skin look different on the surface?
So that is one thing I think is a little tricky for people, because they'll use this Plated product and they'll say, well, I don't really, they may not see a difference immediately. I do think it helps a lot with redness. I found I can tolerate my retinoid a little bit better. My skin is less sensitive.
Okay.
So I noticed that, but a lot of times you don't necessarily see a visible change unless you're
Mhm.
using one of those like imaging analyzers that can really look at your collagen, your pores, the redness, things like that. But
Mhm.
I think of it as almost like a supplement, right? Like I don't
Mm.
take my vitamin D3 K2 and think, oh my gosh, I feel so much better today because I took that. So I don't necessarily feel the difference day in and day out, but I know
Mm.
how important it is for my overall health. And so
Mhm.
again, I think of like my exosomes as playing the long game as well. Like they're getting rid of those senescent cells. There's some data to suggest that it also can help when you do procedures, like help your skin respond better because it's building collagen better. You've almost like primed your skin to be healthy and glow. So, but I do think that that is one of the setbacks for people is they sort of expect to use it and think their whole skin is going to like change in 3 weeks to look totally different, and it doesn't quite work that way.
Mm, okay. Okay. And I've heard a lot of people talking about ginseng, and it's popular in Korea, and apparently it's almost as effective as retinol. And do you know more about that and how that works?
So yeah, actually, I so this is not something that I hear a lot about in the US, at least like with US dermatologists, but I know it's super big with Korean skincare, which Korean skincare is definitely having a moment. And I
Mm,
and I think what is appealing to people, it's a powerful antioxidant.
mhm,
We know that it's people have been taking supplements. It's been around for like thousands of years, and I think people like the idea of it being, natural, plant based, like stuff like that. And there certainly is a role. I have definitely not seen or read studies to suggest it comes anywhere close to retinol. So I would just say take that with a grain of salt.
mhm,
But yeah, I mean, we know these natural antioxidants that are out there are effective. I mean, vitamin C is a natural antioxidant, right? Retinol is natural. We all have retinoic acid in our bodies. It just
mhm,
sounds more like chemical, right? It doesn't sound like
mm,
a nice extract. So
mm,
a lot of these things, they are natural. But I think that's the appeal, is that it's a natural product. It's been around
mm,
for a long time. But again, I think it could be helpful if you have a skincare product you love that has ginseng in it, then go for it. But it's usually not one where I'm like, you must go out and get ginseng. This is
mm.
mission critical.
Okay. I've seen some people talk about it, and I think they've said that they like ginseng because they can drink ginseng tea and get it in through their diet or through drinks. So, what do you think about people having lemon tea, lemon drinks, ginseng tea? Do you think that makes a difference how you're getting the
Yeah.
antioxidants?
Well, so in general, I feel like the best way is to get antioxidants and things like that is to eat it, is to consume it, right? And so having a delicious cup of tea that has ginseng in it, I think is a great idea. People ask me about collagen supplements and supplements all the time, and again, I'll say like, well, they're supplemental, right? So really, the best is to eat is to actually eat lean protein to build your collagen, or to make sure you're eating vitamin C to help with collagen boosting. You're eating blueberries, you're eating like real fruits and vegetables and plant forward. That really is the best way, because not only does our skin need it, but our gut and our skin are intimately connected. And so it's so important for our gut health to have this healthy diet, plant forward, minimal processed foods and sugars, right? And so you can't think your skin's going to look phenomenal because you used a ginseng cream if you're eating garbage, right? So really, like, I love thinking about skin health as whole body health, and really trying to optimize your diet first and foremost, and then if there are additional things you may need, then to supplement and go that route. But antioxidants in our bodies are so powerful. It's not just, we don't just need antioxidants in our skin, we need it in our every organ.
Mm. Okay, well said.
Yeah.
And my next question is that so things like vitamin C, retinol, staying hydrated, eating clean, they're well known in the skincare industry. Is there anything that you think is very, very vital to having good skin, but that isn't well known to people?
Well, a couple things I'll throw in there. I mean, I just put a plug in, like sugar. Like, I don't
Mm.
know about Scotland's diet, but the US, our diet is atrocious. There is so much like just processed garbage and so much sugar. And I have a sweet tooth. Look, and I'm all about like living your life. If you don't enjoy your life and you're so restrictive, like what is the point? But I would say I would challenge you to like look at the labels on the things you're eating. There's so much hidden sugar that you
Mm,
probably aren't realizing, because I would have said, "Oh, I don't eat that much sugar. I don't eat a dessert, every day. When I do, it's a nice one, but it's not every day." But when you actually like look at especially processed stuff, like there's so much sugar in things, salad dressing, ketchup, like all these things. You're like, "Oh my gosh, my your Starbucks drink, these things are loaded with sugar." And we know that sugar really destroys our collagen. It forms these advanced glycation end products, and glycation accelerates aging. And so that's one thing I've become more cognizant of as I've gotten older too, like how much sugar am I actually consuming? Because in this day and age, it is everywhere. It's really
yeah.
astounding. So that's one. And then another that I really sort of neglected and ignored for like 40 years of my life was sleep. And I just thought like sleep was for like losers. Like if you had to sleep 7 to 8 hours, you were just wasting time and you weren't as productive as you
Mm,
could be. And now I realize like I was the loser. Like sleeping is so critical. And if you can't sleep well, or if you're not getting a good night's sleep, then you're not making good choices in your diet. You're stressed out. You
mm,
are, you're not going to exercise, and all those things are so important too. So I do feel like we're starting to recognize the importance of sleep, and no long, but it's still I feel like almost like bragging rights to talk about, oh, I don't need that much sleep, I can get by on 3 hours or whatever. So but I do think sleep is really critical. And I mean, we all know, we've all stayed out too late and or crammed for a test, like, and you
mm,
don't look that good and then the next day, let's be
mm,
honest. So
mm.
so I would say um realizing how important sleep is. And then I
Yeah.
guess the last thing would be like this sort of baseline stress that we all seem
Mm,
to have in our life. Like, all these like gadgets, technology, right? That's supposed to make our lives easier. I really think it's just making us hyper stressed all the time, and in this like constant fight or flight mode. So I think it's important to also realize to take a step back, to maybe have some time where you're not on your phone, especially
mm,
scrolling through social media, where you start to think you're the ugliest person in the world because everyone else has a filter on. And
mm,
just taking a step back from that and realizing like that those images, like highly curated, photoshopped, filtered, etc., like that's not real. And to actually
mm,
spend time with real people to see what real skin really looks like.
mm. Very nicely said. My next question to you is how or what are common skincare mistakes that you've been seeing people practicing?
Yeah, gosh. Well, I'll start with the big one. I've been hearing a lot of misinformation about sunscreen causes cancer. And this
Oh.
really, really, really makes me sad, because I'm seeing like really young people and saying this, or they don't put sunscreen on their kids, and their kids are like frying at the pool. And the
Mm,
troublesome thing is they're not going to see the damage from that for a decade plus, right? And you
mm,
can't go back. And as someone who does take care of a lot of skin cancer patients, they'll be telling me like, what I wish I had known. I wish I had known, because it's so hard to kind of reverse the clock. So I
mm,
think the sun is critical for life. I am not saying we don't need the sun. And everyone, your skin can probably handle the sun better than mine, right?
mm,
But getting burned, trying to get tan, like this is not going to serve you well in the future with
mm,
aging, with skin cancer, etc. So sunscreen does not cause cancer. If you are worried, you still can't be convinced, then make sure you're doing other sun protective measures, like sitting in the
mm,
shade, avoiding
mm,
being in the intense sun between 10 and 2 during the day, wearing sun protective clothing and a hat, things like that. So I would
Mm,
encourage that. I also think, especially young people, they're really getting into these very complicated skincare routines. I mean,
mm,
even my 12-year-old has a more elaborate skincare routine than I do. So, um, now again, some people just really enjoy that. And if that is you, then go for it. But it really is unnecessary. And when you start layering on more than four products at a
mm,
time, I really start to wonder, like, is it even effective at that point, right? And
mm,
it's so easy for people to layer it in the wrong order, and then it's just sitting on top of the skin, not even penetrating. So I think doing
mm,
too much and not being consistent, though, we all want quick fixes nowadays, right? Like, we want to try that cream for 2 days and have glass skin, mirror skin, whatever the new word is. And it just doesn't work that way. So just encouraging people, it's okay to not do 12 steps. It's okay to not spend hundreds of dollars on skincare. It's okay to have just a couple products, but stick with them and be
mm.
consistent. And that's
Yeah.
where you're going to see those results.
Mm. And do you think that changing products or trying on new products can actually slow down people's results? So, say you use the same products over a long period, and then you're trying on or adding on new products into your skincare regime. Do you think that could hamper your results in any way?
I think if you're switching very often. So a
Mm,
lot of times companies will send me products they want me to try and all that. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, I like keeping mine very simple. And now I've got to like try different things. So usually actually I'll like give them to people. So a lot of times it's just not possible for me to try everything. So I'll gift it to people, let them try, get their thoughts on it. But I think if you're bouncing around all the time, then yes, that can be a problem. But if you're like, I'm going to try this for 3 months and see, then I think that's fine. But I think if you're constantly bouncing around, then you aren't gonna see those consistent results.
mhm, mhm. And what's your take on the current hype with all the Korean skincare and the rice serum and the centella and all these products? Do you believe in them? Do you think they
Well,
work?
what's interesting, when you had sent me some of the questions you want to talk about. I have to admit, I am not a super big Korean beauty proponent. I don't really, I've never really used Korean skincare products. I have to admit, like, so I don't. I am not like on the forefront of the Korean skincare craze. So I
Mhm,
actually was like looking through some videos on YouTube to see, like, am I missing something? Like, what's going on? And pretty much all the derms I saw, and even some like chemists and stuff, every single video was sponsored by a company that sells Korean products. So that would be the
mm,
first thing I would tell you is, and yes, they
mm,
disclose that, but a lot of these people promoting the Korean skincare products are selling or getting a kickback from it. And these companies are paying them to promote Korean skincare products. So I think, just again, it's like that with a lot of skincare products, right? Like, just who's giving you the information? What's their angle? Are they getting paid to say that, right? I
mm,
think one thing I'll say about kind of Korean beauty is that they take sun protection very seriously. And
mm,
I think really that's where a lot of the credit should go. Like, they really sun protect, and taking care of their skin is something that's really ingrained even at young ages. So I think that's number one. That's why they put a lot of value into that. They also have a more unique skincare ingredients than we necessarily have here in the US, like snail mucin, like the rice, the what is it, the spicules, or those little spiny things, right? Like, it's more, it's different, right? Like, we don't have
mm,
those kind of products in the US. So I think that the uniqueness of it appeals to people because it's so different.
mm,
It's also easier for them. Like, they don't, in Korea, the regulations for getting products out, it's not as it's very difficult here in the US, which is why, like, we get criticized for not having enough sunscreen filters, UV filters, like other parts of the world, because of the kind of bureaucracy in getting products out. So I think that is all sort of why, it's having a moment right now. Do I think any of those ingredients are uniquely better than anything I could get here? No. But
Mm.
again, if you like it and you want to sort of try things that are a little more like out there, a little more, um, you know,
Trendy.
just trendy, exactly,
Yeah.
then sure. Do I think it's gonna give you, do I think you can't get those kind of results here using the five products I talked about? I mean, I think they're just different ways to get there. um, but I personally don't. Again, I'm not though a product junkie, and so I
Mm.
just kind of keep it simple. What I'm using is working, and so I don't feel the need to like go try snail mucin because the moisturizer I'm using is working really well anyways. So I just,
Mm.
anyone listening, like, you don't feel like if you're not using Korean skincare, you have like missed the boat and you're gonna have terrible skin.
Mm.
Again, it's a trend, right? Like, check back in 5 years, it's gonna be another country. It's gonna be something else, right? So instead of following the trends, just find what works for you and just stick with it, right? I know that's boring, but it works.
Yeah.
So you know what else, so I that's sort of my take on Korean skincare, and just take it with a grain of salt, because even on my quick little 10-minute perusal through YouTube, I couldn't find a video on Korean skincare from like a dermatologist or chemist that wasn't paid for
Mm.
by a company that sells it. So
Mm. Okay. Okay. My next question is, do you have any all-time favorite skincare brand or product that's been life-changing for you in terms of results?
yeah, yeah. So again, I'm not a skincare junkie, and there are so many. This is the thing. There's so many good brands. There's so many great skincare products out there. It's funny. It makes me laugh. People are like, "When are you going to start a skincare line?" I'm like, never. Or maybe I shouldn't say never, but I'm like, there's so many good ones out there. I just can't see
Mm.
adding another one at this point. But um,
Mm.
I would say for starters, I would say probably up until maybe 2 years ago, all
Mm.
my skincare came from the drugstore. So I love brands like CeraVe,
Mm.
Cetaphil, Cream, Neutrogena, Aveeno. Like, these companies, they're massive companies, and they have huge research and what is it, R&D. They have R&D budgets, and they do studies and they do clinical trials, right? And they're using like ingredients that aren't just like trendy of the moment. They're actually like doing research into it. So these companies I feel really good about. They invest in the research, and they're a great price point. So I think sometimes people think, oh, it can't be that good, it's from the drugstore. But I'm telling you, for 40 some years, like, that's all I used exclusively. And then my
Mm.
prescription. I mean, I love a prescription tretinoin, a retinoid. So to me, it's like, go big or go home with that. So I have, as I'm getting a little bit older, my skin is getting a little more sensitive. I have a little more disposable income than I did when I was in my 20s. I am playing around with different products. Some that I do love. I love Hydrenity. I think that's a company that's on the rise. They make a really nice hyaluronic acid product, which hyaluronic acid is tricky. A lot of the times it just sits on the surface of the skin, but if you really
Mm.
want it to get into the dermis, then not every hyaluronic acid product does that. So I think they make good products. A sunscreen, a staple for derms, is Elta MD. But I'm also really loving Revision, has a nice one that I'm liking.
Mhm.
What else? Obagi is a great brand and company. I've been doing the plated. So these are, I try to stick with, though. I'm less trendy, so I don't necessarily go with the product of the moment. I sort of stick with these brands that have been around and they're starting to get some, like, a little maybe broader reach. But would I ever pay, like, what I think like La Mer makes a $400 moisturizer? Would I ever pay that? No, never, ever, ever. So again, you don't think, oh well, I got to spend $200 on my vitamin C or it's going to be garbage. Not
Mm.
necessarily, right? So again, find something you like and kind of stick with it.
Mhm. Mhm. You'll be saving a lot of money for a lot of people today.
Yeah, well, and I think one thing we don't talk enough about in this whole, people all want to talk about clean beauty, right? And like, well, what does that really mean? And to me, clean beauty is also using less. Like we consume and use so much. I just think of the stuff I'm always like being sent, and products and everything, and all the packaging that comes with it. And it's so wasteful. So I think we should all think about clean beauty as also just using less. Like we
Mm,
don't need all these products and packaging, and a dedicated serum just for our left eyelid. And so I think I think that also just use less if you really want because I think of clean beauty as beauty or products that are environmentally friendly, that are
mm,
safe, that are well tolerated. And
mm,
so I think we should spend more time talking about that.
mm. And do you have any final skincare tips for our audience today?
Yeah, I would say don't get overwhelmed. Don't, because I know it. I call it the hot girl hamster wheel, where you feel like you've got to do all the things, you got to try all these things. You're getting left behind if you don't. And I would just encourage you to. It's okay to say no. It's okay not to be doing everything your best friend's doing. Um, and if, Find someone who you trust, who can give you good skin information and education, whether that's someone online, whether that's your dermatologist where you see in person, or someone that you trust. So I think there's a lot of people out there hyping up things, trying to sell you
Mm,
things. You got to do this, you got to do that. And so it's important to find someone that you resonate with, that you trust, and try to like put on blinders and cancel out the noise around you, and just kind of stick with your routine. If it's working,
mm,
then stick with it.
Less is more.
That's right. Yes. And yeah,
Yeah.
and I would say check out my podcast, The Skin Reel, because that is where I just try to give just like information that I'm asked about on a daily basis from
Mm,
people who are like, what do I really need? Do I really need that, Korean skincare product, etc.
mm, mm. Thank you so much. That was very helpful for all of us. It was lovely
Yes.
to have you today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Bye.